we have to remain vigilant about the necessary physical distancing, safety and cleaning protocols to ensure that we continue to save lives while we work towards saving the academic year. On a sad note, I must report that we have lost 80 members of our public higher education community to deaths that are related to COVID-19 complications. Of these, 35 were staff members and 9 students from universities and 36 from our technical vocational education and training TVET colleges, with 11 students and 25 staff members. We mourn these losses of staff as a ministry and the loss of lives also for students in our universities and colleges, and wish to send our condolences to the families, friends and colleagues of those who have succumbed to this illness. We also wish to express further condolences to the relatives of those who are in our sector that have been lost through this. Let me start by giving a report on universities, on what is going to happen. Qale ngodaba lwamanyuvesi ukuthi kuzokwenzakalana emanyuvesi njengoba sizochaza namhlanje emva kwesimemezelo sikamongameli sangesonto elidlule. In terms of the most recent monitoring report as of 6th August 2020, the total number of positive COVID-19 cases reported by our institutions is 1,552. Of these, 975 are staff and 577 are students. 115,555 students had been issued with permits to come onto campuses for teaching and learning and research purposes. This amounts to approximately 20% of the contact student population. Some institutions are still implementing the phased return of the first 33% of students to their campuses. On a daily basis, we wish to say 29,624 staff and students are screened entering university campuses. It is assumed, of course, that with this number, not all students issued with a permit are returning to campuses. Some may be choosing to continue to work remotely from home. The relatively low number of daily screenings may also be linked to the management of activity on campuses, in that students are not all arriving on campus every day but are attending campus when it is necessary. In terms of return to residences, there were 33,985 students living in university-owned residences as at the 6th of August. This is approximately 28% of the residence capacity in the system. In addition, institutions reported that there were a further 27,177 students living in university-leased and managed accommodation, 12,474 students living in university-accredited accommodation, and 9,899 students living in private accommodation that had been vetted by universities. Our latest monitoring reports show that while challenges do remain in the system, all universities have made significant progress in their teaching and learning strategies and campus safety strategies, which have included implementing various methods for remote learning, distributing devices and data to students, distributing learning materials in other forms directly to students, training staff, communicating regularly with staff and students, and adhering to protocols that keep staff and students safe on campuses and in residences. On matters relating to health and safety in our institution, I wish to say that all of our institutions have prepared their campuses in line with the higher health protocol, our own organization that has been helping us in this regard, as well as health and safety committees at campuses I do wish to point out that in our meetings with the trade unions, they've raised this matter which is of concern, that not all of our campuses have got health and safety committees. Now, these committees are compulsory in law, whether there is COVID-19 or not. Even more so now that we are faced with the scourge of COVID-19. So all of our institutions, we call upon management to know that if they've not established health and safety committees, they are breaking the law, and in this instance also, they are depriving themselves of involving both workers and students in the task of confronting COVID-19. I have raised this with the Vice-Chancellor, as I have also raised it with the college principals. Institutions will need to continue to be vigilant and prioritize health and safety of staff and students, while at the same time ensuring continued and more intense support for teaching and learning to ensure that the academic year is saved. In addition, just some figures that are important to share with the public. Number of staff and students who are quarantined are 2,040 because of being suspected or having been in contact with people who have tested positive. Number of staff and students who have requested to self-isolate are 2,076. That's the data as at 6th of August, as I say. Number of reported deaths in our universities, staff is 35 and students is 9. And number of students offered with permit are approximately 18% of the total contact student population. Now let me come directly now to level 2 plans for universities. All universities have plans in place for remote multimodal teaching and learning, and the controlled return of students to campus-based tuition in line with the criteria published in the relevant government gazette. According to the criteria developed, I am happy to report that under level 2 of the lockdown, it will be possible for us now to allow for up to a maximum of 66% of students to return to university campuses. Kusho ukuthi siyavula futhi sesivulele ingxenye yabafundi ingxenye yesithathu ukuthi ibuyele emanyuvesi njengoba sasikade ngoJune sivulele ingxenye yesithathu yokuqala sesivulela manje ingxenye yesithathu yesibili. This will be done in terms of the detailed COVID-19 management plans in place across the sector and to ensure the continued safety of students and staff while allowing for greater access to campus teaching and learning for more students. In terms of the criteria, the following categories of students will be able now to return under level 2. The first category of students who are now going to return as part of this 1/3, it's all groups that had been prioritized to return in level 3 but could not be accommodated due to the maximum campus carrying capacity having been reached. Shouthi ababesalele ekuqaleni kule ngxenye yesithathu yokuqala yibo manje abazobuyela ngoba sasingekho isikhala esanele ukwenza isiqiniseko sokuthi akukho ukugcwala okuzodala ukuthi singakwazi ukulandela umgomo ukuthi abafundi nabafundisi bangasondelana eduze. The second group will be students in all years of study who require laboratory and technical equipment to complete the academic year. The third group will be students in all years of study who require practical placements, experiential learning, workplace-based learning to complete the academic year. Of course, provided the workplaces and platforms are open and prepared. And the next category that's going back this time is all first-year students in all undergraduate programs. So those are the groups of students who are now going to go back as the second 1/3. All other students will continue to be supported through remote multimodal teaching, learning, and assessment until they can return to campus. It is recognized that each institution will determine the implementation of these criteria in terms of their own academic programs and plans. Some have been asking then, what about the last one-third? The last one-third, as per our plans now, will return to universities when we move to level 1. So far, then, they will continue working remotely through the multimodal learning and teaching mechanisms that have been put in place by the universities. We have been doing everything possible to ensure that we support institutions to respond in the best possible way to the many challenges that have arisen during the pandemic. This has included the reprioritization of funds to support the COVID-19 response at our public universities. On risk assessment during this period, each institution has its own operational plan based on a risk assessment linked to its operating conditions, location, and context. What this means, amongst other things, is that the focus now must really be on institutions and on campuses. We call on all our stakeholders to focus at that level because that is where things are happening. Ngamanye amazwi, umsebenzi omningi manje usezikhungweni la kufundwa khona. La kufanele senze isiqiniseko ukuthi zonke izinto zokuphepha nezinto zokufunda zisesimweni esifanele. Institutions submitted their plans to the department on their 33% return of students to campus and have been requested to submit updated plans for the 66% return by yesterday, and they have indeed submitted. We are analyzing these plans and we will be updating the public as and when we analyze this information and give further guidelines on what is to happen. The department also receives status reports on a wide number of readiness and operational indicators from all institutions on a fortnightly basis. Ningangishika amanzi. Amanzi ayimpilo. Amanzi ayimpilo. Njengoba sifuna abafundi bethu nje bephilile, nami ngifuna ukubajoyina ngiphile ngokuthi ngikwazi ukuphuza amanzi. Ngiyaxolisa. According to the latest report, 14 of our universities are deemed to be at low risk. We have listed them there, as we will be releasing this report. Maybe I should read them. The 14 universities that are at low risk is Cape Peninsula University of Technology, Nelson Mandela University, Northwest University, Rhodes University, Sol Plaatje University, University of Cape Town, University of Johannesburg, University of KwaZulu-Natal, University of Pretoria, University of South Africa, that's UNISA, Stellenbosch University, University of the Western Cape, University of the Witwatersrand, and University of Zululand. 6 other universities are deemed to be at medium risk, which those are Durban University of Technology, Tshwane University of Technology, University of Limpopo, University of Mpumalanga, University of the Free State, and University of Venda. The last 6 universities which are deemed to be at very high risk in terms of being ready to do what is expected of them is the Central University of Technology, is Mangosuthu University of Technology, it's Fako Mahato University, University of Fort Hare, Fal University of Technology, and the Walter Sisulu University. Of course, there may be changes from the data that we received yesterday, which we hope that will be changes for the better and improvement. And as I have said, we will keep on updating the public of the situation. Maybe just to explain about this readiness, we've got about 21 indicators that cover issues related to safety, issues related on whether the institutions are able to implement multimodal learning, as well as a whole range of other indicators to ensure that universities are ready. That is how we are categorizing that. There are those at low risk, at medium risk, and at high risk. Some universities have not adequately resumed academic teaching and learning for a significant proportion of their student populations since March, when the recess period started. This, of course, poses a very serious risk. The department is currently engaging with all medium and high-risk institutions, the 12 identified above, to secure commitments and actions to lower risks and expedite operational capabilities to ensure successful completion of the 2020 academic year. Special support measures will be put in place to ensure academic activities resume at an accelerated pace at these universities. But what we must say at this point, these institutions that have got challenges, we call upon all stakeholders, staff, management, student leadership, to work together to tackle the problems, and not just to stand from afar and say, we will simply protest and say, why is this not happening? Why is that happening there? Rather, we are calling upon all stakeholders to work together. You will understand why we are saying this for the things that I'm going to be outlining just now about the readiness and the challenges that are facing our universities. In this regard, institutions have reported differential levels of responsiveness in terms of their progress in completing the requirements for the 2020 academic year and readiness for the onset of the 2021 program. I've been concerned about the wide range of variation in respect of these two aspects, given that there are various kinds of negative implications for the system. We need to strike the right balance between the imperative of enabling institutions to complete the requirements for the 2020 academic year in order to give all students a fair chance, and the need to ensure the start of the 2021 academic year in ways that do not render the system unmanageable or impairing the principle of equity of access across the system. For this reason, I have met with both the COVID-19 Ministerial Task Team, which is chaired by our Deputy Minister, Puti Manamela, and the Vice Chancellors in the last week, to impress upon the principle to agree on a fixed period within which all institutions must complete the current academic year and a fixed period of starting dates for the opening of the 2021 academic year. As it stands now, and this is very important, we are targeting all institutions to complete the 2020 academic year by the end of February 2020, with starting dates for the new 2021 academic year ranging from 15 March to 15 April 2021. Let me repeat this. As things stand now, we are targeting that all institutions, that is our universities, public universities, to complete the 2020 academic year by the end of February next year, with starting dates for the new 2021 academic year ranging from 15 March to 15 April next year. All efforts will be made to ensure that outlier institutions, Bayanda will be impressed with me here, all efforts will be made to ensure that outlier institutions get up to speed to meet this requirement. Ngibona manje ngifundiswa insizwe yakanongoma isingisi. Bengingakwazi ukulipronounce leli gama le-outlier ngoba angilijwayele. Ngithi hawu madoda ngiyofundiswa insizwe yakanongoma ngithi ngiyingwenya yakadambuza nje. The detailed management of these two processes across the system will be communicated by the department once all the necessary consultations have been completed. Iyezwakala-ke manje le ndaba. Njengoba sithi akubanjiswane nje ingoba lo nyaka ka-2020 asizukwazi ukuqeda. Ngisho kaphi? Ngelapha ngathi February 2020, it's February 2021. Lo nyaka sowuqeda ngoFebruary 2021 ngokweinhlelo zethu. Mazonke izinto zihamba kahle. Siqale unyaka wokufunda omusha phakathi kwa-15 kaMashi no-15 ka-April ngonyaka ozayo. Kusho ukuthi asikho isikhathi. Njengoba sithi akubuyelwe nje kufundwe, akufundwe ngempela. Kuthi nala kuney'nkinga khona sibambisane ukuthi siyixazulula kanjani iy'nkinga. Sizama ukugwema ukujikijelana ngamatshe ey'khungweni zethu zemfundo ephakeme. Now, what are our directives that we have given as the department? The protocol governing the staggered return of students to campuses must hold. In other words, what we have announced, that we are taking the second one-third category of students, must stand, and the last one-third when we reach level 1. We don't know as yet when we will reach level 1. Of course, we'll be consistently monitoring the situation very closely. So that staggered return stands. Any uncontrolled return would be highly irresponsible and place lives of students and staff at risk. We met with stakeholders in the COVID-19 task team that I have referred to on Friday last week, chaired by our Deputy Minister, to secure stakeholder support for this broad strategy. We are pleased to say that there is broad support in the sector from all